In a small African village named Akuru, people lived in harmony with nature, following ancient traditions passed down through generations. One of the most peculiar beliefs among the villagers was that clothes should never be left outside overnight. This rule was strictly followed, though the younger generation often questioned its purpose. One evening, a curious young girl named Amara asked her grandmother, Mama Neka, why the rule existed. Mama Neka smiled knowingly and promised to share a story. She began by explaining that the night is filled with mysteries, and sometimes, the unseen world interacts with the human world in ways that could bring harm. Amara, a lively and curious 12-year-old, always found her grandmother's stories fascinating, but she also loved testing the boundaries of those old tales. After hearing about the mysterious rule of not leaving clothes outside overnight, she became determined to understand why such a practice existed. What could possibly happen to a dress left under the stars, she wondered. That evening, after her chores were done, Amara carefully selected her favorite red dress, one that Mama Neka had sewn for her birthday. Ignoring her grandmother's warning look, she draped the dress neatly over the clothesline in their backyard. Amara stood by the window, staring at it as the evening deepened into night. The moonlight bathed the yard in a silvery glow, making the dress appear even more vivid. With each passing hour, her anticipation grew, her imagination running wild with thoughts of what might happen. As the first rays of sunlight broke through her curtains, Amara leaped out of bed and rushed outside to check on the dress. It was still hanging on the line, but something was different. The fabric, which had been soft and smooth, now felt damp and rough, as though it had absorbed the essence of the night. A strange earthy smell clung to it, and the vibrant red seemed duller, almost as if the dress had lost its life. Although Amara couldn't explain these changes, her curiosity only deepened. That evening, as the family gathered for their usual meal of yam porridge, Amara decided to confront Mama Neka again. Grandma, she began hesitantly, why do you say spirits touch our clothes at night? I left my dress outside, and nothing happened, or at least, nothing I could see. Mama Neka's wise eyes sparkled as she placed her bowl down. Oh, Amara, you think because you saw no spirits, they were not there. You forget that the things of the night do not always reveal themselves to the naked eye. She leaned closer, her voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. The Ola MMO, the night spirits, do not just wander aimlessly. They seek out things that carry the energy of humans. Clothes left outside are like open invitations for them to touch, taste, and leave their mark. Amara listened intently as Mama Neka recounted a chilling tale from her youth. There was a young woman in our village many years ago, she began. She left her blouse outside one night, thinking it was harmless. The next day, she wore it to the market, and by evening, she fell ill. The elders believed that a spirit had caused the blouse because it had been left exposed. It took weeks of prayers and sacrifices to heal her. The gravity of Mama Neka's words sent a chill down Amara's spine, but she was also captivated. Could that really happen? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mama Neka nodded solemnly. Yes, my child. That is why we respect the unseen forces of the night. Not everything can be explained, but everything must be respected. Amara, though still skeptical, began to see her grandmother's words in a new light. The mysterious changes in her dress and the eerie tale now made her think twice about ignoring the wisdom of the past. Despite Mama Neka's warnings and the eerie changes to her dress, Amara's curiosity refused to be quelled. That night, as the village grew silent under the cloak of darkness, Amara decided to leave her dress outside again. This time, she placed it neatly on the clothesline and stayed awake, determined to observe anything unusual. From her bedroom window, she had a clear view of the backyard. The moon hung high, casting a pale glow over the village. At first, everything seemed ordinary, just the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze. But as midnight approached, Amara noticed something strange. The dress began to sway gently, even though the air was still. Then, faint shadows flickered around it, their movements too erratic to be caused by the moonlight. Amara's heart raced as she squinted, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Fear gripped her as the shadows appeared to grow darker and more defined. Unable to watch any longer, she shut her window and buried herself under her blanket, her mind spinning with fear and doubt. When dawn broke, she cautiously stepped outside to retrieve the dress. What she saw made her freeze. The dress was no longer vibrant red but a dull, almost grayish hue. The edges were frayed, and there were streaks of dirt smeared across the fabric. It smelled strange, like wet earth mixed with something metallic. Amara felt a chill run down her spine. Though she had no explanation for what had happened, she began to suspect that Mama Neko's tales were more than mere stories. Still, a part of her wanted a logical explanation, and she resolved to seek answers from someone who might know more. Disturbed by the strange occurrences, Amara decided to visit Chief Obi, the eldest and wisest man in the village. Known for his deep knowledge of both the physical and spiritual worlds, Chief Obi was often sought after for guidance. Amara approached his hut with a mix of trepidation and hope, clutching the dress tightly in her hands. Chief Obi welcomed her warmly and listened intently as she recounted her experiences, from leaving the dress outside to the shadows she saw and the odd smell that now clung to the fabric. He examined the dress carefully, running his fingers over the frayed edges and sniffing it with a furrowed brow. After a long pause, he spoke. "You have disrupted the balance, child," he said solemnly. "The spirits of the night are not to be disturbed, and your actions have drawn their attention." Amora's eyes widened as Chief Obi continued. "Clothes, you see, carry more than just fabric. They hold your energy, your essence. When you leave them outside at night, you invite the spirits to interact with that essence. If they find it pleasing or curious, they may claim it as their own, or worse, they may leave something behind that binds you to them." His words sent shivers down Amora's spine. "What should I do now?" she asked, her voice trembling. Chief Obi instructed her to perform a ritual of apology, one that involved burning incense and offering a small sacrifice to the spirits. "You must show them respect and ask for their forgiveness," he said. "And you must promise never to leave your clothes outside again." Amora left the elder's hut feeling a heavy weight on her shoulders. She realized that her actions, though born of curiosity, had consequences she couldn't fully understand. For the first time, she began to see the wisdom in the traditions she had once dismissed as mere superstition. Amora returned home clutching the incense and small offering Chief Obi had given her, a bundle of dried herbs, a small clay pot of palm oil, and a piece of white cloth. The ritual was to be performed at midnight, a time when the spirits were said to be most active and open to receiving messages from the living. Though fear gnawed at her, Amora knew she had to make amends. At the stroke of midnight, she stepped into the backyard, the air cold and eerily still. She arranged the items as Chief Obi had instructed, placing the herbs in the clay pot and anointing them with a few drops of palm oil. Lighting the incense, she watched as thin trails of smoke curled into the night sky, carrying her whispered words of apology. To the spirits of the night, she began, her voice trembling, "I am sorry for my ignorance. I did not mean to disrespect you. Please accept my offering and leave me in peace." As she spoke, the smoke seemed to shift unnaturally, swirling in patterns that made her heart race. Then, as quickly as it began, the air grew calm, and the faint rustling of the trees returned. Amora stayed outside a moment longer, her eyes scanning the yard for any signs of movement. Satisfied that the spirits had accepted her apology, she returned inside, feeling a sense of relief. The next morning, Amora was startled awake by a strange sound outside her window. Rushing to look, she found the backyard eerily quiet. The clothesline, where she had left her dress days before, now hung slack, as if weighed down by an invisible force. Despite the ritual she had performed, something didn't feel right. As she stepped outside to inspect, a sudden gust of wind blew through the yard, chilling her to the bone. It carried with it a faint, whisper-like sound that seemed to form words. Amora froze, straining to listen. Respect, the night, the wind seemed to murmur before fading into silence. Goosebumps prickled her skin, and she quickly backed away, realizing that her actions had left a mark that couldn't be easily erased. Mama Neko noticed Amora's unease and pulled her aside. "The spirits are reminding you of their presence," she said gravely. They may have accepted your apology, but they will not forget. This is why we must always follow the old ways, child. It is not just about avoiding trouble, it is about living in harmony with the forces around us. Amaka nodded, her resolve firm. She would never leave clothes outside at night again. Amaka's experience had changed her, and she couldn't keep it to herself. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she gathered her younger cousins and sat them down around the fire. They were eager to hear what she had to say, their faces glowing in the flickering light. Do you know why Mama Neko always tells us to bring in our clothes before nightfall? She began, her voice steady but solemn. The children shook their heads, their curiosity piqued. Amaka recounted her story in vivid detail, from the moment she left her dress outside to the eerie shadows and the ritual of apology. She explained how the spirits of the night were drawn to the energy left in the clothes and how disrespecting their domain could lead to dire consequences. It's not about fear, she concluded, but about respect. When we honor the traditions, we protect ourselves and live in peace with the unseen forces of the world. Her cousins listened intently, their youthful bravado replaced by awe and a hint of fear. So, the spirits really touch the clothes? One of them asked. Amaka nodded, a small smile on her lips. They do. And now you know why you must always bring them in before the sun sets. From that day on, her cousins took the rule seriously, and Amaka felt a deep sense of pride. She had turned her mistake into a lesson that would live on, much like the wisdom of Mama Neko herself. Alarmed by Chidi's condition, Amaka visited the village healer, Mama Udu. The healer explained that clothes absorb the wearer's energy and essence, making them vulnerable to spiritual interference when left unprotected overnight. Mama Udu gave Chidi a protective charm and instructed his family to burn the affected clothes. Within days, Chidi recovered, further cementing the villagers' belief in the power of the spirits. Despite everything she had learned, Amaka remained skeptical. She decided to conduct one last experiment. This time, she left an old blanket outside overnight and marked it with a unique pattern to ensure no one tampered with it. The next morning, the blanket was still there, but the pattern had faded, and the fabric felt unusually heavy. Amaka admitted defeat, finally convinced that the village's belief held merit. Word of Amaka's experiment spread throughout the village. While some people admired her bravery, others scolded her for risking the wrath of the spirits. Mama Neko reminded her that certain traditions existed for a reason, even if they seemed irrational. Amaka apologized to the villagers for her actions and promised to uphold their customs. Her experiences became a cautionary tale for others, especially the younger generation. Years later, Amaka moved to the city, where people dismissed such beliefs as mere superstition. However, she couldn't forget what she had witnessed in her village. She often warned her city friends about leaving their clothes outside overnight, though few listened. One friend, Nkechi, laughed at Amaka's advice and left her jacket on her balcony. The next morning, it was gone, as if carried away by an unseen force. Nkechi couldn't explain the disappearance, and Amaka silently thanked the spirits for proving her point. Continue exploring themes of respect for traditions, supernatural experiences, and the balance between skepticism and belief. Each chapter introduces new anecdotes, deepens Amaka's understanding of her culture, and reinforces the moral lesson: traditions often carry wisdom that shouldn't be ignored. Let me know if you'd like more chapters in similar detail.